Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, families. My name is Mark Sykes, and I'm the Vice Dean for Student Success, which includes the departments of the Dean of Students Office, the Center for Student Diversity, and the Haven, our Center for Support, Advocacy, and Empowerment. Please know as we begin today that we really do understand this moment. We understand the gravity, the expectation, and the meaning. And I know that we are all asking us and you, both students and families, to take a bit of a leap of faith with us for our program today. Let me set the stage for our conversation. We all chose William and Mary. There was something that made you feel special as students when you came and you noticed the sunken garden for the first time. There was something about this institution that really drew you to this place. Please keep in mind that this is the place where world-class faculty care about you, who teach and learn together with you to ensure your success. This is the university that leads by our virtues and our values. We are going to be here with you and your student every step of the way, all the way through this, to ensure that your students are successful. Now, are you ready? We're going to do our best this afternoon to answer your questions that you sent in advance and answer your questions from our live audience today. You may submit questions via the link on the Town Hall website that should be just above the video window. The remaining part of the program tonight will focus on answering questions related to what you need to know for fall 2020. Our panelists today include our medical director, Dr. David Davishie, Maggie Evans, our Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and Director of Residence Life, Eric Garrison from the Office of Health Promotion, our Chief Operating Officer and Keeper of the Books, Amy Sebring, and my most favorite Dean of all, Dean of Students, Marjorie Thomas. One shout out I have to go to send before we get started is for Corinne Picataggi and Bonnie Fleming over in IT. I hope you're watching tonight, and as you are building all of the new tech and programs that we're using, and I really just want to say thanks for all that you have done for our institution to help move us forward with new innovative technology that will help us stay safe and healthy this semester. Thanks for always taking my text, and even when you're riding your bike on Jamestown Island. Okay, panelists, are we ready? Here we go. First question. Marjorie, I think that this is a good question for you, Dean Thomas. When do classes start for all students?
Classes start for all students on August 19th. As you know, based on the notice that we sent out about a week ago, our goal is to ensure that our students are transitioning well and that we're doing so in a safe manner. And so our first year students will be arriving a little earlier this time. And as we will be making opportunities for our international and graduate students to be on campus as well. And subsequently, around the Labor Day holiday, our upper class students, our sophomores, juniors, and seniors will be able to join us on campus. But we will all be starting classes together on August 19th.
Thanks, Marjorie. Our next question goes to Maggie Evans. Maggie, what are the move-in dates for all students?
Well, in a sea of date changes over the past couple of weeks, I'm happy to report that our move-in dates for freshmen and graduate students and international students and transfer students have not changed. We're still going with their originally scheduled move-in dates between August 8th and 11th for graduate students and international students, and August 12th through the 14th for our freshmen. Our sophomores, juniors, and seniors we received an email today outlining all of the details that they need to schedule their move-in appointments that will take place between September 4th and 6th. So we'll look forward to seeing them on Labor Day weekend and check those emails for all the details.
Thanks, Maggie. Here's another question for our Chief Financial Officer and Chief of Everything, Amy Sebring. Why isn't William and Mary going fully remote?
Mark, it's a great question. And I think, we continue to come back to our mission. One of the things we learned from the spring was really how difficult that transition was for many of our students. Many more students than we expected had real challenges in terms of having access to be able to learn remotely, just felt the isolation of not being in community. And so, we've heard loud and clear from our students, they want to be back in person with us, and we want to be able to do that, obviously do that in a way that is responsible given the conditions that we're under. I would also say that over time, we, in discussion with our faculty, I've been amazed. One of the things that made us successful in the spring, I had a vice dean say to me, was that we had already developed that community with our students. The faculty had already engaged in the classroom. The students already knew each other. And to start a new semester without that would be a real challenge. And so we continue to come back to mission and are committed to providing the excellence that our students need in whatever manner we can.
Thanks, Amy. I have one follow-up question for you. Many out-of-state students or traveling from afar have already made plans and committed funds to return to campus next week. What drove the decision not to allow them to come back to campus until after Labor Day?
Right. So I can tell you, this was a challenging discussion. We knew that if we made any changes to the move-in schedule, that would impact students and families. However, if you look at what's happened over the last several weeks, the uptick in cases nationally, the number of red states, every morning when you turn on the news, you're greeted with what that map looks like. And then we were seeing some pretty significant trends in our region that really compelled us to say, we need to take our time, we need to be thoughtful in the return and really do it in a phased way to make sure that we could do it safely. And so, we knew that would impact our out-of-state students, but we also knew it would be disruptive. Those are our students that are traveling from the farthest distances. And so if we had to make a change in the short term, we figured it would be more disruptive for our out-of-state students than for our in-state students. And so we did that very intentionally. The good news is the public health numbers look better, that we're trending in the right direction. And I think with the additional time, we'll be able to bring the campus back in a phased way that really will be to the benefit of all of our students.
Thanks, Amy. Dean Thomas, here's a question for you. If I'd like to request a deferral of admissions, a leave of absence, or a gap year, do I have options? And what are the deadlines for me to make those decisions without incurring any additional costs?
Definitely. Well, in line with everything that's going on, one of the things that we want families to know, our students to know, is communication is key. And so when there are questions about what options are available, whether one is seeking a semester gap or a full year in terms of a gap year, they would begin with the admission office, because essentially as freshman students that they would be deferring their either first semester or first year here at William and Mary. And that process would begin with David Trott in the admission office. And so feel free to contact that office, and arrangements can be made. That request typically needs to be made in writing, and they will walk you through that process and the requirements to ensure that it's a smooth transition in terms of your return. As it relates to our continuing students, our continuing undergraduate students in particular, who are seeking a leave of absence or withdrawal, they may do so either for a semester or for a full year. That should be done for undergraduate students through my office, through the Dean of Students office, and for students who are graduate or professional students to contact their program directors, and so that they can make appropriate arrangements and ensure that they're keeping in step with their curriculum. We really have facilitated a process that makes that ability to do so very easy. The forms are available online very easily. If you go to our website at Dean of Students at wm.edu, we are right there and the forms are accessible. And what we typically do is also do kind of an exit interview with students just to get a sense of what are your plans, how can we support your transition upon your return, and to also ensure that you're in step with all of the possible deadlines that include signing up for on-campus housing and ensuring that any other deadlines that are appropriate to your quality of life at William & Mary are dealt with at that time as well.
Thanks, Dean Thomas. Okay, Amy Sebring, one more question. What is the threshold or criteria for William & Mary to adjust the plans again? Do we need to pivot or to go fully online? What are your thoughts?
So this is probably the question that I get most often. I think all of us are looking for certainty and a time that's uncertain. And initially, as we started working through some of these questions, I think we all were saying, "What's the number?" or "What's the circumstance?" And it really is a pretty complicated calculus. And so, one of the things that the president has done is she's brought together a small group of advisors. Dr. Daffershy is among them. That can really help us understand the public health data. Health and decisions around health are the absolute first and foremost factor that we're taking into account. And so we're looking at a number of things. We're obviously looking at positivity rates in the region. As I said, 2 weeks ago, those numbers started looking pretty concerning. Happy to say we appear to be mitigating that some, and I think the governor's executive order has helped with that. We'll want to understand positivity rates on campus. We'll want to understand the attack rate, which means what percentage of our population is becoming ill after a certain period of exposure. We'll want to be able to assess the effectiveness of our social norming, what we're doing around social distancing, mask wearing, and that's part of the reason for the phased return. We'll be able to calibrate, are we doing enough? Are we holding to that community commitment in a way that's effective and is working? And then obviously we'll be monitoring our capacity to isolate and quarantine over time. But it's really going to be a mixture of all of those and really an awareness of what's happening not only on campus, but in the environment around us.
Thanks, Amy. All right, guys. Families and students, if you're just joining us, we are asking our questions that were sent into our town hall question email box prior to the evening. We'll get through those questions first, and then we will have an option if you'd like to post a live question at the top of this video. You should see a link. We're happy to answer as many questions that we have time for. I'd like to switch over to testing if I could. So Dr. Daffershy, our COVID test hasn't arrived and we move in next week. What should we do?
Well, I think Amy can probably help me with this one as well, but I think that the general policy is to certainly contact us if you have any concern about your result not being back before your move date, because we would like everyone who moves back to campus to actually have that recent negative result. That's my concise answer. Amy, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so Dr. Daffershy, I would add a couple of things. We posted FAQs on the website. I know we've gotten lots of questions, and so I would encourage, if you haven't already looked at those, at least that would provide a baseline. And we have updated, all students now should have access to our testing portal. And so you're getting real-time information in the portal in terms of what your shipping dates are, when you should expect to see that arrive. And if you're not seeing that on the schedule that you expected, please reach out and let us know. We'll overnight a test to you and hopefully get that back on track. We're working hand in glove with the Res Life team for folks that are living on campus to make sure that we understand arrival dates, and we'll be making those adjustments based on the new revised moving schedules for those of you that haven't seen test kits yet. So don't worry if you're still a few weeks out, you won't have received your kit yet, but you will in due course. Those of you living off campus, likewise, we're pacing that with when we expect you to be returning to campus.
Well, Amy, since you're a whiz at answering some of these questions, I'm going to throw this one to you. What should I do with my test now if I have it in my possession and I'm not returning until campus until Labor Day?
Right. So as I said, I think most of the folks that have test kits probably should already be in that first group of students coming back to campus. But if you've already received one and your plans have changed, or if your move-in date has changed, hang on to it. They're shelf stable. So as long as you're keeping it in a temperature controlled area, don't throw it in the back of your trunk in the car. But if you're keeping it on the shelf somewhere at home, it'll keep until you get closer to your move-in date, and you can do the sample and send it in at that point.
Students and families, I'd also remind you, if you get your test, please go ahead and complete that right away and send it back. I was looking at some data today that indicated that a few of our students have held on to those tests for a few days before sending back. And I think the timing of how the company is doing it is trying to sort of keep it as much as quickly as possible and timing it pretty perfectly. So if you get those tests and you are planning on moving back before Labor Day, please go ahead and get those done immediately and send those back. So Amy, one more question for you. What will happen to students who have not received a test or have not received their test results upon arriving to campus? Will they still be able to move into their residence hall?
No, so a negative test result is required. For students, you will be notified on the app when you get that test result. So you'll know immediately as that test result is approved, and they are sending information to us as well. So Res Life will have a list of anybody, we'll know if your test result has come back. And so at the point at which you're checking in, we'll be able to confirm that as well. So you actually don't have to worry about bringing something with you. We'll know at the same time that you know, and that'll be shared with Res Life when you've been cleared to move in. They'll only know that you're cleared or not cleared. Not cleared could mean that it's still in process. Of course, not cleared could in some cases mean positive, but obviously we want to make sure we're protecting that information. Publicly, it'll just be an indicator of whether or not the test has come back and that you're cleared to move in.
Thanks, Amy. All right, Dr. Davashy, can you tell us a little bit about how effective is COVID-19 testing of students prior to coming back to campus, when some of them will be coming from areas very far away, requiring air or train travel? Will there be temperature tests administered to students arriving on campus for move-in and thereafter?
So no test is perfect, but we do know that both the PCR tests and some of the point of care rapid antigen tests are approaching 96 to 97% sensitivity. So they are very, very accurate in ruling the condition out, which is why we want everyone to return essentially with a good bill of health. Now, we understand that anything can happen, and obviously a test gives you a result which is meaningful only in one point in time. So any type of travel could potentially be a source of re-exposure. And we also know that 3 days after a negative test, that doesn't guarantee that we still have 100% negativity rate. We are going to be talking a little bit later about some of the symptom sorts of tracking apps that are in place, and some of the attestations and the daily symptom tracking that we're going to be recommending students follow. So while there will be a number of temperature taking kiosks on campus, which are optional, there will also be an expectation that on a daily basis, people continue to monitor their symptoms. The Student Health Center is going to be available for any student who should develop any type of symptom, no matter how mild, and retesting will be available at that time. We're fortunate that we've actually gotten a large supply of point of care tests, which will give us some very rapid results accurately for any individuals who do develop symptoms. But for the rest of the population, everyone really should be monitoring themselves on a very regular basis, and that will be the expectation upon their return to campus.
And then I would just add, Dr. Davashy, as well, we will continue to be sampling students, asymptomatic students over the course of the semester, as well as employees over the course of the semester. You know, one of the challenges with this disease is that people don't always show symptoms. And so a really important part of our testing program will be to continue sampling the population so that we understand if we're seeing positive results appear, even if they're not showing up in your clinic expressing symptoms.
That's a great point, Amy. Thank you for that.
Dr. Davashy, another question for you. If students are feeling symptoms or encounter other students who test positive for COVID-19, what will the availability look like for testing on campus?
Again, all appointments will be scheduled for the sake of everyone's safety and health. But patients who are having symptoms or who believe they are a close contact are encouraged to set up an appointment with the health center. we will give them some instructions on things that they may wish to bring to the appointment should they actually need to be reassigned to another dormitory. So individuals who are close contacts of a positive case or simply have symptoms that they're concerned about should come. We will appropriately evaluate them, test them as appropriate, hopefully have the result in a very timely way, and make arrangements either for alternate arrangements at Richmond Hall if they're positive, or if they're a close contact, then they would be quarantined in that same dorm. Individuals who test negative would be told to monitor their symptoms and sent back to their usual dormitory.
Thank you for that. Amy, I have a question for you. Will all commuter students take a test? And if so, how will you monitor their test results?
So the return to campus test, as I've nicknamed it, is the same for all students, whether they're living in the community, whether they're commuter students, whether they're new or returning students. And as I mentioned, we are getting the results in real time, so that we'll know for students that are commuting as well if they have tested and if they've tested negative. So that'll be shared, and we'll be monitoring that at the same time as we're all returning back to campus.
Another question is, why was Calico chosen for William & Mary test kits? I know that Dr. Davashy has already talked about their reliability, but can you talk to us a little bit, Amy, about why this particular company was chosen?
Sure. So Calico, although they are shipping the test, the real advantage that we determined in working with VCU Health was really the network of labs that they have. If you've been watching the national news, I mean, you've seen the horror stories of tests taking 5, 7, 10 days to respond. And as we started partnering with VCU Health, Calico was one of the companies that they've partnered with. They actually have a new name that their founders have been in the healthcare industry and really in sort of the logistics of healthcare for decades. And they have the ability through their app and data portal to be able to get information back really quickly to us. So when you're seeing the horror stories on the national news about things taking 5, 7, 10 days, right now we're Calico is helping us turn around tests in less than 36 hours. So we're doing much better. And that really is, through the guidance with VCU Health in terms of helping us navigate through our testing protocols. The initial test that we're running, I think Dr. Davashy mentioned, it's over a 98% specificity and sensitivity rate. So they're really high quality tests. And as I said, we feel confident in the robustness of the supply chain, which has been an issue both in the Commonwealth and nationally, as well as in the ability to turn around the test results quickly.
And then the last question about testing, I will leave it up to you, Amy, and Dr. Davashy, if you'd like to answer. I have questions about my consent form that accompanies the test kit. How do I know my test results, DNA, and personal information will be protected?
So I'll talk about the kits or about the consent forms around the return to campus tests and the ongoing sampling that we're going to be doing. And then Dr. Davashy, you may want to talk about how testing is working in the health center. The consent forms are different. I mean, they look different than what you see when you go to a doctor's office because they really are designated to deal exclusively with COVID testing. And so the data and the information that are being shared, those consent forms comply with federal and state privacy laws and are really limited in scope in terms of what information can be shared and in a limited way with them. We also from a technical standpoint, folks may be interested. We have had our Chief Information Security Officer highly engaged in the process with us, our IT team involved in that process. You gave a shout out to Corinne Picataggi. She's been great in helping us navigate through this. But all of our testing information is stored and transmitted securely, and again, consistent with federal and state health laws.
And certainly from the standpoint of the health center, HIPAA obviously protects the confidentiality of every patient. We are going to be signing or encouraging patients sign optional release of informations, for parents and for William & Mary purposes, just in terms of wanting to track and cleaning spaces, But that is certainly an optional thing. And again, the individual's privacy is going to be protected otherwise. But for the purposes of just public health, if and notification, if patients do in fact sign a release of information, it would be for a select group of individuals, whether it be parents or facilities management and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I might add too, the state of Virginia just released, just signed up, but still getting used to COVID-wise, which is actually an effort that they've undertaken to also help individuals be notified if they've been in close contact with somebody tested positive. And so, that's one we're going to be encouraging, again, with all of our healthy community activities, encouraging folks to take advantage of that. So that you also will have that as a way to be notified if you've been in close proximity with somebody who's tested positive.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. All right, let's ask a little bit about some COVID management. Dr. Davashy, can you please explain the steps that will be taken if a student tests positive for COVID-19 while on campus? What is the process?
All right, well, we have people that live on campus and we have people that live off campus. Any individual who comes to the Student Health Center, will have made an appointment. They will have been advised by phone to bring a certain amount of items in the off chance that they will in fact have to be quarantined. So patients who come for testing, once they test positive, will not be allowed to go back to their dormitory or their domicile. So it's going to be important that they come possibly prepared for relocation. If you do live on campus, Richmond Hall is a dormitory that has been assigned for individuals who are either under investigation or who have tested positive for COVID. So that is where an individual who tests positive and lives on campus would be relocated. If you're living off campus, we would assess the situation, decide if the individual might be better served going home or staying in place in their off-campus residence, with the understanding that if they have multiple roommates and they share bathrooms, we may need to talk a little bit more about how other individuals would be quarantined. So once they're in Richmond Hall, we will actually be the ones transporting them to Richmond Hall. So they will be transported to Richmond Hall by Student Health, where they will be assigned a room and they will be properly cared for at that point. They will get daily calls from the health center. They will provide with our contact number should they need us for any medical assistance. There is an on-call physician who will be available around the clock should any issues arise. And Mackie will talk a little bit more about this, but obviously meals will be delivered to their room as well. So the whole point is to try to make this as minimally disruptive to their semester as possible. We will be talking to them at that point about contact tracing. We'll be partnering with the local departments of health, of course, but we know that can be a time that can take some time. And it's in our best interest for our community to make certain that we contact all close contacts as quickly as possible so that they can come in, be tested, or appropriately quarantined.
Thank you.
For that as well, Mark, that one of the things I think we are prepared for and recognize is that for many students, particularly in this age group, symptoms may be fairly mild. And so although it'll be important for them to be isolated while they're in recovery, we anticipate that folks at Richmond Hall, many will probably may not feel their best, but are hoping that the symptoms will be relatively mild. And Dr. Davashy's team is obviously prepared in the event that people have more serious symptoms or aren't feeling as well. But that's one of the things that we recognize in this disease is that it really does hit people differently, and we're prepared to handle that.
Thanks, Amy. All right, Evans, you're up. If a student goes to Richmond Hall, what can they expect? Should students have a pre-packed quarantine bag? What should be in it? Should they bring their own sheets? What size? Give us some information.
All right, I'll try to be as succinct as possible, but if any of you have ever lived, shared a home with somebody who was pregnant and you have your hospital bag, we recommend that you might have a little COVID bag packed with enough clothes to get you through 10 to 14 days. So you don't necessarily have to worry about laundry, although we do have laundry facilities at Richmond Hall, and really be cognizant of packing all of your academic supplies that you need, your books, your notebooks, your laptop, your phone charger, your laptop charger, all those things that we need for daily academic and personal living. The students will not be permitted to return to their room, so it's critical that they have these items ready to go. So when they are on their way to that appointment, they should really think through the very extensive list that the Student Health Center is sending the students, and really pay attention to that and abide by it. Once the students get to Richmond Hall, we have staff on site there from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. they are on call. So we'll always have access for anything they might need. Each room has 1 to 2 full-size beds, and we're providing all the bedding, all the linens, so they won't have to worry about packing those types of items. We'll take care of all of that. At check-in, they'll receive their keys, an extensive resource guide that tells them exactly how their quarantine period is going to go, what kind of resources and services they can expect, and then how to access help when they need it. Finally, dining services is all set to go. Students will go online and order their preferred meal selections, and they will be delivered twice a day. So lunch will be delivered between 11 and 1, and it will be the meal of their choice. And then dinner, as well as the next morning's breakfast, will be delivered between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. And each room will have a small table outside the door, and the meals will be delivered right to that table. And so the students can grab and go and have their meals as needed. They will put their trash outside their door, double bagged. All of the directions are given to them, and so they won't even have to leave their room to take the trash out. So we have everything covered and should be in good shape for the students that may need to head to Richmond Hall.
Thanks, Maggie. The real question is, I'm hoping I can get food delivered to my house, even if I'm not showing symptoms. Dr. Davashy, when will students be released from Richmond Hall after I've arrived there? David, you're muted. I muted you earlier because I thought
know,
you had a
yes.
bad mic.
You did it to me, you see.
I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. So again, getting back to the whole reasons for being in Richmond Hall, there's a couple of reasons why you would be there. You would either be in isolation, right, which means that you actually were a positive case, or you would be in quarantine, meaning you're under investigation, you were a close contact. As it turns out, the CDC and the VAH guidelines have evolved over time. For individuals who test positive, it is a 10-day quarantine period now. Assuming the individual remains relatively asymptomatic. They will need to be afebrile, without a fever, without any symptoms really of any kind for the last 24 hours of that 10-day period. If that occurs at the end of the 10 days, they would be able to return to their dormitory, okay? If they continue to have fevers, then that period could be prolonged, but anytime after 10 days when they've been symptom-free for 24 hours, that would be the time that they would be returned. Now, ironically, individuals who are under investigation or who are in quarantine in some ways, and it seems counterintuitive until you think about it, actually need to be quarantined for longer. It's a 2-week period. So once somebody establishes that they have been in close contact with a positive case, there are a couple of ways that it could proceed. They could go into quarantine until that time and observe for symptoms, and at that time, go ahead and test for COVID. They could choose to be tested initially, but the test result doesn't actually change the period of time unless it's positive. If the test is positive, then the quarantine time goes back to 10 days. If, however, they test negative, the quarantine period is 14 days, and that has to do with the incubation of the virus itself. So individuals who are quarantined would be there for 14 days. They would not be allowed a roommate. Individuals with actual COVID could potentially have a roommate, as you know, one can be around another COVID patient without spreading anything since everyone already has it. Those people might have double occupancy rooms, and they would be there for 10 days, assuming they were symptom-free for the final 24 hours.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Davashy. Okay, Dean Thomas, Eric Garrison. Dean Thomas, let's start with you. What will the consequences be for non-compliance with anyone who does not complete the community commitment?
So yeah, Mark, I think that's an interesting, we've been getting a lot of questions about that. And I'm going to lead with this. We are a community that is committed to caring for one another, supporting one another, and I expect nothing different during this time. One of the reasons why the Healthy Together commitment um, kind of came together with a lot of input from students, faculty, staff, was really the idea that we could all center around this commitment of being safe and ensuring that our students could engage in their academic progress, have a reasonable quality of life on campus, considering all that we're navigating, but being able to do so following guidelines that we've received from the experts in this area. And we're trying to update that information on a regular basis and provide the most up-to-date information to our community. But our expectation is really that our students abide by that. And I will say that, and I'm saying this in my Dean of Students voice, if you don't think that you could come to our community, and whether it is as a student or as a friend of a student or the family member of a student, and follow the expectations that we believe and guidelines that we believe are going to keep our community members safe and healthy, then it's probably not best for you to be here. But I know differently, and I know that whether you are new to our community or are returning, that our Healthy Together commitment is one that our students will abide by. And like many other ways that we hold students accountable in our community, if there is egregious behavior, if there is overt behavior in terms of violating our expectations, there are mechanisms in place, but that's not where I want to lead. Those mechanisms exist and we would follow them. They would include due process and notification, but they would involve accountability. What I'm going to lead with is the fact that I know that as a member of this community, and as a member of this community who respects my peers, my colleagues, and the people that I get to interact with every day, that I'm going to care about their safety and well-being. And my sense is that our amazing and brilliant students will do the same, and they will encourage each other, besides abiding themselves by these expectations, encourage each other to do so for the well-being of all concerned.
Thanks, Marjorie. I know for me, I've even gone to the grocery store a couple of times, got out of the car, almost got in the building, and I thought, oh my goodness, I left my mask. And I've had to run back to the car and get that. And my son's been going to the gym on a regular basis, and he often have to drive back home to get that mask because the James City County won't let him in the rec center downtown. So I know students and families, we are going to assume the best of intentions with each other, that somebody is on their way to someplace and they'll pick up a mask where they're going. I think it's going to be really important as a community that we hold each other responsible, but also give each other the benefit of the doubt that we are a community of scholars, that we are William and Mary, and we're going to be doing this together.
Yeah. And I,
So,
and I will say, to complement what you've said, Mark, one of the important things too is we don't want folks spending time policing others. We want to give people grace and assume that they have forgotten their appropriate PPEs, whether it's a mask or a screen of some sort, anything that they're using to protect themselves and protect others, that they've left it either in their car or in their residence hall. What we want to focus is, we want to really focus on how can we be healthy together, and how can we ensure that this community, to the extent possible under these circumstances, can have, not only an important academic experience, but to the extent possible, an engaging experience in this community. That's truly the benefit of being back at William and Mary, right? Is to have the opportunity. Optimally, it would be different, right? But is to have the opportunity to be with one another, to engage with our faculty. We're trying to do as much as we can to create an opportunity for, under the circumstances, to manage that. But we know optimally we want to be with one another. We want to engage with one another, but we want to do so in a healthy and safe way.
Eric, I got a question for you regarding health and wellness. My entire support system lives across different dorms on campus. How will I maintain a mental health if I live in different residence halls and cannot see each other? can we be responsible in each other's dorms and wear masks?
Mark, that's a great question. One of the things that's bothered me, the way the media covers this, they keep using the phrase social distancing. It's really about physical distancing. We want you to be socially close, but physically distant. We do have a policy here that when you live in a residence hall, that is your residence hall and your living space, we don't allow you to go into another residence hall or living space. Find a third space where you could meet, commune, talk, wear those masks, be at least, 6 feet, 2 meters apart. And we do want you to socialize and have those great opportunities. It's also why campus recreation and student leadership and development, all these groups on campus have created COVID safe events that'll be taking place the moment our new students arrive for the rest of the semester and beyond. So, please, we want you to be socially close, physically distant, but no, you can't go from one residence hall to another. You can go from one room in your residence hall to another room in your residence hall, but you'll need to wear a mask.
And Eric, I would just add, I mean, we actually are setting up spaces on campus. We're adding tents as outdoor gathering facilities. And we really are trying to transform the campus, understanding that people are going to want to socialize and need to be able to do it in a safe, physically distant way.
Thank you. Anybody can really answer this question, Dean Thomas or others. Aside from my room, where can I study or take my online classes on campus? What sort of campus facilities, such as the rec center, should I expect to be open?
Well, there will be a number of facilities available. Obviously, they will take into consideration distancing methods to ensure that those who are in those spaces are taking the appropriate precautions. But whether it is the campus center or Sadler Center, the library is going to have certain hours and indicate certain spaces where students can be. Obviously, for us, especially in the fall, there's nothing as beautiful as Williamsburg, and our students typically use the outdoors as a space where they engage. As you know, some of our faculty even teach some of their courses during the semester, especially in the fall, outdoors, do some of the sessions. We want students to learn how to adjust to this physical spacing, but we are going to optimize our facilities to the extent possible. So when students arrive, they'll see a lot of signage that is guiding them, that's providing parameters for them in terms of how to get around. And also, I think what they'll find too is a lot of our departments and student organizations are working on how both virtually and in person, we are facilitating this opportunity of where can I go to engage around not only study spaces, but to engage with my peers in a safe manner.
We've added to our William & Mary app, we've added a space indicator that will help students know when various spaces are more or less full. And so if they're looking, to try to find a place to study or to have some quiet time, they can look and see what various parts of the campus are relatively empty and navigate in those directions. So we're trying everything we can to help students move and know before they leave their dorm room or they leave their residence where the best places on campus might be to gather.
Great. Panel, I'd like to remind you that we have about 15 minutes left in our program tonight, and I would like to get to as many questions as possible. You're doing a great job. Just keep those answers short and sweet so that we can get as many questions answered for our students and family members. Dr. Davashy, can students travel off campus for work, volunteer opportunities, or to visit friends and families on the weekends?
Campus is an open campus, and we expect that visitors will be coming onto campus and that individuals will, for a variety of reasons, need to leave campus. I think the main take-home message is we expect the healthy behaviors that we enact on campus to follow you wherever you go. So whether it's a visitor coming onto campus or an individual who has to go locally for work, we want all of us to lead by example in the community and on campus. So so long as the appropriate protocols and safety measures are in place, then yes, individuals would be allowed to come and go.
How will William & Mary provide a robust student experience for remote students? Dean Thomas, would you like to answer that?
I know already in our planning efforts, we've made a commitment to do so both on the academic side and on the co-curricular side. Obviously for us, especially for our scholars and experts in their fields, our faculty are always trying to navigate how to engage our students in a robust way. And I think many of them now are trying to adjust with the times of how can we create a blended curriculum and approach to doing that for our students. And what I think students will find is that even during the time, for those of them who are enrolled in remote instruction, that faculty are utilizing technology and different mechanisms to make sure that students are connecting to the academic discipline in a creative way. And I also know they're working with a lot of colleagues, in particular our Studio for Teaching and Learning, in terms of how to facilitate that in an innovative way for them. I also believe that for us on the co-curricular side, it's trying to, again, maintaining these healthy approaches to how we kind of walk in our daily life while we're on campus. How do we create spaces for students who are remote to engage with their peers, to ensure that they're feeling very connected to William and Mary and our traditions? And so many of our traditions, especially early on in the semester, will be creating virtual opportunities to engage our students, both our first year students, in addition to our continuing students, also figuring out ways to ensure that beyond tradition, some of the new activities that are going on, how do we plug students in? And we want to do that without overtaxing students. We are very much aware sometimes being in front of a computer or your phone, depending on how you're engaging with either your faculty or your peers, can wear on you. And so trying to figure out, based on students and their time and their availability, how can we continue to be more creative and innovative around student activities and programs and ways that students can connect to not only their faculty and their mentors, but also their peers.
And Mark, days before we switched to emergency remote teaching, we created the first virtual wellness center in the United States. So that is never going away. So we were always offering innovative health programs, classes, yoga, lots of different things that students anywhere across the nation or around the world could participate in.
Thank you very much, Eric. Maggie, I have a couple questions for you. Can I cancel my housing contract for the fall, but keep my spring housing assignment? Who can be released from the housing contracts at this time, and what is that deadline?
The deadline for canceling a contract is September 3rd, and it can be done via the housing portal, and all of our students know how to access that portal. We will have space for everyone who wants to return to campus in the spring. We can't guarantee that they can keep their exact same assignment. We will have a process to recontract and recommit to coming to campus for the spring in October, and we'll contact everyone and give them details on how to do that. And hopefully the space that they left behind will still be open. There's a good chance it will be, but as we have to manage room change requests over the course of the semester, we need to have those spaces, so we can't guarantee that they can come back to the same space. We will release freshmen and sophomores who either take a fully remote schedule and live at home or commute from a permanent residence within 60 miles of campus. We find that our freshmen and sophomores are our population that need the most support in their transition, and we just can't guarantee they won't get that in an off-campus setting. And so we're committed to the mandatory housing requirement for freshmen and sophomores.
Maggie, if my roommate decides to study remotely, will I be assigned another roommate, or will I just get a single this semester? And will I have an option?
We can't guarantee that any vacant spaces will remain vacant for the whole semester, and that's normal practice for any year, anytime. So that sounds sort of nice, right? That we're keeping something normal. So any student that has a vacancy in their room should be prepared for a roommate. We don't anticipate having an option to buy out that space as a single, again, because we want to try to preserve the folks that are joining us in the spring so that they have an opportunity to return to their same space as possible. So it's unlikely that we will offer a vacancy buyout.
Got it. And then Maggie, I'm going to ask you an obvious question that you've heard a lot in the last 24 hours. What is the status of One Tribe Place and when can I move in?
We are in the final stages of obtaining a permanent occupancy permit for One Tribe Place. And I won't go into, there's a lot of details about why that is a really exciting thing. For many years, we have operated on temporary permits, which puts us in a state of flux every single year. And we really need to get to the point where we can count on this building being ready to house all of our students forever and ever, amen. And we're almost there. We're so close. The process is really moving along and we hope for good news soon. We will move students in the moment we are able and given permission to do so.
Maggie, I would say you and I have spent a lot of time
Oh my
talking about
gosh.
this building, and for anybody that's ever built a house, unfortunately, sometimes that last yard can be the longest. But I think we are moving quickly to get folks into that dorm because we know how much students love that dorm, and it's in looking good.
Oh my gosh.
Getting really good reports, and we're looking forward to being able to
once we're in there, everyone will be thrilled. I don't want to say it'll be worth the wait, but it'll be worth the wait. I promise. It'll be great.
All right, where we have about 7 minutes left, I'm going to jump in quickly and ask some questions. We have received a lot about dining questions, and I would encourage you to review the dining email sent to your student today, which was linked inside the family newsletter. And I'm sure that all families and students, especially families, read that newsletter all the time. There is a robust commitment in providing a great dining experience in a safe way this year. I've been in many meetings to better understand what they're going to be doing this semester, and some of the new technologies are pretty neat. Again, please go ahead and jump into your students' email, not for them, but read it with them if you have any questions about dining. Okay, Amy, I think it's really important that we at least talk a little bit about finances, tuition, and fees. Are we going to be discounting tuition and fees, room and board for students at all this semester?
No. So Mark, next to testing, this may be my second most frequent question. A couple of things, and this obviously is we know on the minds of students and families. It's very much on the minds of the university and our board. And our board took action already this year. They had planned tuition increases, and they actually took action, I think, in May. To roll back those planned increases. We've put an additional $3 million of financial aid into in-state and out-of-state need-based aid. We've added, we disseminated almost $1.5 million in CARES Act money. We've done heart funds. I know our financial aid office is working one-on-one with families if their circumstances have changed. And I think we've added another $325,000 in awards just in the last few weeks. And so we are working very aggressively in that space. In terms of tuition and fees, I mean, those are the dollars that support the faculty expertise that provide the quality education that our students want and expect. And they support, the staff that are on this call and elsewhere in providing the services, the co-curricular activities that also are so important to our students. The last piece that I would say is it's more expensive to operate a university in the midst of a pandemic. And so, some of the things we've talked about tonight, we've put significant investments into technology. We know, we did a really good job under the circumstances of converting 2,000 classes to remote learning in a very short period of time in the spring. And we also know that we can do better. And so we've made investments in technology. We've upgraded classrooms. We've added to some of those physical spaces on campus. We're putting significant resources into testing and PPE and cleaning protocols and all the things we've talked about. And so we are trying to manage, all of that, understanding that our parents and families are also really interested. And we're continuing to assess where we are on the cost of all of that, and we'll continue to review that through the fall. But at this point, we have no additional plans to move forward on any changes with tuition and fees. I will say with the changes in the moving timeline, I think as Maggie has already expressed, we do recognize for students moving into dorms at a later time period that we'll make adjustments there going forward.
Thanks, Amy. Our first live question goes to Eric Garrison. Will there be a mandatory tutorial for all students and faculty on CDC recommended hand washing, frequent high touch disinfecting, and respect for those others wearing masks when appropriate?
Mark, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, on Monday, so next week, we'll start to see these videos released to everybody, not just students, but also to faculty and staff. And they really communicate this message of it's a shared responsibility. As I heard Marjorie say, the whole healthy together piece, I'm responsible for your health, you're responsible for mine. That's the only way that we can do this until we have an effective vaccine. So that's a great question. And thank you for asking.
Eric, I have to tell you, the folks over in Health and Wellness have been absolutely amazing. And I know that you and your brand new building have done a lot for students and families. I really appreciate all the efforts. I can't wait to watch some of these videos that have been produced. I would like to ask Marjorie Thomas, we have about 4 minutes left. Marjorie, can you tell us a little bit about how textbooks, how will students go about getting their textbooks during the first few days of classes?
Obviously, that will vary for some students depending on whether they are coming in this upcoming week or whether they'll be joining us around Labor Day. We recommend that students work with not only their faculty member, but also the bookstore. Obviously, once they've identified the course that they're in, there are many options available for online purchases and delivery. And the bookstore can give some guidance on some dependable ways to do that. We also know many of our students kind of support each other in terms of some of their social media connections and being able to support each other in terms of I heard from a student earlier in the week who talked about, well, I'm here right now and my friend's brother is going to be here, and so he can't come here until Labor Day, so I'm going to get the books and take them up. So I think as a community we're working on it, but please know for families, whether it's the bookstore or navigating with a faculty member, or even with our library in terms of resources to support students around textbooks and or course related materials, that we're here to support that effort and can not only provide you with information that's appropriate, but also support students in terms of making sure they have the materials they need to be successful in the classroom.
Thanks, Marjorie. Maggie, I'm going to throw the last question to you before we sort of wrap up this evening. It's really important traditions that we have at William & Mary. It's one of the things that I participate in every year. We have some amazing traditions here. Can you tell us a little bit about how Convocation will work this year?
I will unmute. Convocation is going to be phased process this year, and the academic topics are going to be covered in a virtual event on August 19th. Then the traditional Wren walkthrough will be scheduled at a to be determined date when students can safely gather for this incredibly beloved event. It's critical that we eventually have the class of 2024 participate in this time-worn tradition, and we will make it happen as soon as we safely can.
Panelists, I want to thank each and every one of you for your time this afternoon. I hope students and families, you have appreciated our time together. Any question that you did submit live, we got a lot of them and we're unable to answer. We will have that information on the Path Forward website under the FAQ section. You can dial in for that. There are additional programs. We have Heather Deer, our Assistant Director of Parent and Family Programs, is hosting a call-in tomorrow afternoon. That should always be exciting. Dr. Dabashi, I'm glad that you had connection this afternoon. Eric, you're amazing. Amy, always a pleasure. And Dean Thomas, you're kind of my favorite. And yes, you're my boss. So thank you, families, for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.